You've driven past these roads your whole life and never questioned why they're still there. No potholes, no patches, no crew with a hot mix truck showing up every spring. Holmes County, Ohio, has the world's largest Amish settlement, and the roads those families built to carry 10-ton loaded wagons are still holding. Your town repaves the same stretch every 3 years. That's not bad luck. That's a business model. The Amish figured out a layering method that gets stronger under weight, and it costs nothing to maintain because it was never designed to fail in the first place. Most people assume the road cracked because of a hard winter or too many trucks. So they accept the repair bill, the orange cones, the same stretch getting torn up again, and they call it maintenance. It's not maintenance. The cracking started before the first truck ever rolled over it. Asphalt is a petroleum-based binder mixed with stone aggregate. The moment it cures, it starts breaking down because the binder oxidizes. It stiffens, loses flexibility, and slowly stops holding the stone matrix together. UV hits it from above and speeds that process up. Then water finds the micro cracks, gets in, freezes, expands, and pushes the surface apart from underneath. That's not weather defeating a good road. That's the material doing exactly what its chemistry says it will do. The engineering specs don't hide this. Standard asphalt pavement carries a design life of 7 to 15 years before it needs resurfacing. Municipal contracts are written around that interval, and every piece of that system, the petroleum suppliers, the hot mix plants, the equipment manufacturers, depends on that interval staying short. A road that lasts 30 years with no resurfacing contract is a road that never needs to be sold again. You can see why that's a problem for the people selling it. Now here's what the Amish road does differently at the physics level. It doesn't use a binder. No petroleum compound holds the stones together. The structure holds itself through friction, through the interlocking geometry of angular stone, and through the weight of everything pressing down on itself. It doesn't oxidize because there's nothing in it that oxidizes. It doesn't crack because it was never rigid to begin with. A rigid surface fails by cracking, and cracking is permanent damage. A surface that holds itself through friction and interlocking geometry fails by loosening, and loosening is reversible. You add stone, traffic presses it back down, and the road resets. That's not a repair crew. That's the road correcting itself under normal use. The loaded farm wagons running through Holmes County carry around 10 tons when they're hauling grain or timber. That weight isn't tearing the road apart. It's pressing the aggregate tighter, driving fine particles into the voids between larger stones and making the whole structure denser. Engineers call this self-compaction under load. The road gets stronger the more it gets used. Put that same 10-ton load on a thin asphalt surface over a poorly compacted base, and you get what engineers call fatigue cracking. The surface flexes under the load, the binder gives out, and cracks start at the base and work their way up. Heavier use means faster failure. That's the opposite of what happens on a properly built stone road. The failure of asphalt isn't bad luck, and it isn't weather. It's a material that needs a petroleum contract to go down and another one to come back up, built on a design life short enough to make sure both contracts repeat on schedule. If you've ever spread gravel on a driveway and watched it rut out by spring, you didn't buy the wrong stone. Traffic does it over weeks of normal use, pressing the mid-sized stone down into the base below it until the two layers start acting like one. The top layer is where most people stop paying attention, and it's the layer that does the waterproofing. Fine crushed stone, called crusher run or stone dust depending on where you're buying it, packs so tightly under traffic that it forms a near-solid cap across the surface. Water sheets off it instead of soaking through. The fines fill every remaining void between the stones beneath them, and once that cap sets under use, the whole road becomes one locked mass from top to bottom. The ratio that creates that waterproof cap isn't complicated. You need enough fine material to fill the voids in the layer below without floating the larger stone up. A working ratio in the top layer runs about 60% coarse aggregate to 40% fines. But the real test is whether water sheets off after rain or pools and soaks in. The roads in Holmes County weren't built for the Amish byway tourist route. They were built to move grain, timber, and livestock across land that no paving contractor was ever going to service. So the community built the roads themselves, and because they were the ones using them every single day, they built them to last. That's the part that changes everything. The Amish don't bid out road work to a contractor and wait for a budget cycle to come around. When a road needs work, the people who use it fix it. That model only works if the road doesn't need constant fixing, so the incentive to build it right the first time is direct and personal in a way that a municipal contract never is. Your tax dollars fund a contract. Their labor funds a road. Those are two completely different things. Now, the method itself isn't specific to Ohio, and it's not tied to Amish culture. It's applied physics, and it works anywhere with similar soil and traffic conditions. Agricultural extension offices across the Midwest were documenting nearly identical layering methods for farm roads back in the 1930s and 1940s. That documentation still exists. It just stopped getting promoted once a much larger system needed it out of the way. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 didn't just fund highways, it built an industry around them. Petroleum suppliers, asphalt plants, paving contractors, and equipment manufacturers all grew up around that federal spending, and every one of them needed the maintenance cycle to stay short. The gravel road method had no supply chain behind it, and no lobby protecting it, so it didn't get written into engineering school curricula or municipal planning guides. It got set aside quietly, not because it stopped working, but because it couldn't be monetized on a repeating schedule. The Amish kept using it because they had no reason to switch. They don't buy petroleum products for their roads, don't lease paving equipment, and don't sign maintenance contracts. The method that made sense before 1956 still makes sense on a farm road right now, and you can drive out to Holmes County and see it holding up under loaded wagons if you want the proof. There's also something worth knowing about how the settlement has grown. As Amish families buy up English-owned farms in the county, they inherit road infrastructure that often needs work, and they rebuild it the way they know how. Not with a hot mix truck, with stone, a blade, and time. The tourist roads get asphalt. The working roads get the method that actually holds. You'll find the same thing in parts of Appalachia, the Ozarks, and the Great Plains, wherever municipal infrastructure never reached, and someone had to build a road that just needed to work. The ones still standing were built on the same graduated stone-based logic. The ones that failed were round gravel over clay. Your town isn't repaving that same stretch every 3 years because the road keeps failing. It's repaving it because the material was chosen for its contract cycle, not its lifespan, and every budget meeting that approves the next round of asphalt is just approving the same decision again. The Amish method is sitting in Holmes County right now, carrying 10-ton loads, asking for nothing. Angular base, mid-size fill, fine cap. The physics are in century-old engineering manuals. The cost is a quarry trip and a blade. The description has the full layering spec, the aggregate sourcing guide, and the compaction sequence before the next frost gets into the ground.